As the sun rose over the village, Kofi sat in darkness. His heart was heavy, the weight of his love for Mawuena pressing against his chest like iron chains. He knew the village elders would make an example of him at the Nyigbla Festival. Tradition was unforgiving, and the crime of loving a woman promised to another, one of the chief's own, was the greatest sin of all. Mawuena, though banished, was not broken. She wandered the edge of her once-beloved village, her heart aching for Kofi. Every step away from the place that was her home brought her closer to a truth she could no longer deny. Love was worth fighting for, even in the face of tradition. With every heartbeat, her resolve hardened like steel. She could not, would not leave Kofi to face the wrath of the elders alone. Elikem, son of the chief, sat alone under the ancient baobab tree. His heart was torn between duty and compassion. He had been raised to lead, to uphold the traditions of his people. But now, those same traditions felt like a cage. How could he condemn Kofi and Mawuena for a love so pure? And yet, how could he defy the elders, defy his own father? As the Nyigbla Festival approached, Elikem knew one thing for certain. He would have to choose a side. Deep within the council chambers, the elders spoke in hushed tones. Sir Lorm, the oldest and wisest among them, had carried a secret for years. A secret that threatened to undo everything. Kofi was no ordinary farmer. His lineage held a claim as ancient as the chief's, but it had been buried by time and ambition. Now, with Kofi in chains and the Nyigbla Festival drawing near, that truth was on the verge of exposure. Mawuena could not wait any longer. With the help of her closest friends, and surprisingly Elikem himself, they devised a plan. On the eve of the Nyigbla Festival, under the cover of darkness, they would free Kofi from his cell. But the plan was not without risks. If caught, the price of their defiance would be their lives. Yet love had already pushed them beyond fear. This was their only chance. The village gathered for the Nyigbla Festival, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. As the drummers played and dancers moved in rhythm, Kofi was dragged before the elders, his fate seemingly sealed. But just as the chief raised his hand to deliver the final judgment, Elikem stepped forward. His voice rang out over the crowd, shaking the very foundation of the village's traditions. "Before we judge him," Elikem declared, "let the truth be known." The air crackled with tension as the secrets of the elders began to unravel. The truth, once spoken, could not be undone. The village was torn between the old ways and the new. Kofi's bloodline, hidden for generations, was revealed, shaking the authority of the elders. Some called for mercy, others for punishment, but as Mawuena and Kofi stood together before the village, hand in hand, one thing became clear. Love had the power to burn through the chains of tradition. But in its ashes, what would remain? Redemption or ruin? Mawuena and Kofi find themselves at the edge of the forest, out of breath, but united. The village elders have begun a search, but they have a moment of peace, hidden in the dense woods. Kofi turns to Mawuena with a determined expression. "Kofi, Mawuena, we cannot turn back now. Our love is not just defiance. It is truth, something neither of us should be ashamed of." Mawuena, "I know, Kofi. But what if we are found? The elders, my family, they will never forgive us." Kofi takes Mawuena's hand, his eyes reflecting both fear and hope. "Kofi, then we will forge our own path. We can leave, start anew, away from the chains of tradition." As the night falls, the couple makes their decision, but the sound of drums in the distance reminds them that the village's wrath is near. The elders find them before dawn. Standing at the edge of the village, the tension is palpable. Chief Elikem, his eyes dark with anger, steps forward. Behind him, Mawuena's father stands in disappointment. "Chief Elikem, Kofi, you have dishonored this village and our customs. You, Mawuena, were promised to my son. You have betrayed us all." Mawuena steps forward, her voice steady despite the fear inside. "Mawuena, I never loved Elikem. I followed tradition, but my heart was never his. I ask for the right to love, even if it defies your rules." The crowd murmurs as Kofi steps beside her, his eyes locked with the chief's. "Kofi, I have loved Mawuena with nothing but respect and purity. Punish me if you must, but do not take her freedom away." The chief raises his hand, silencing the crowd. His next words will decide their fate. As the sun rises higher, Chief Elikem speaks, his voice booming across the gathered crowd. Chief Elikem, the laws of our ancestors are not to be broken. But today you force us to choose between love and tradition. We cannot ignore the love between you, Mawuena, and Kofi. But your defiance must have consequences. He pauses, looking at Mawuena's father, who remains silent. Chief Elikem, you will leave this village, and you will leave behind all that you know. If you choose love over duty, you cannot return. The price of your love will be exile. Kofi and Mawuena exchange a look, knowing the gravity of what is being offered. But they also know their love is worth the cost. Mawuena steps forward, her voice strong. Mawuena, we choose each other. We choose freedom. With those words, they turn their backs on the village, walking towards an uncertain but hopeful future.